Lieutenant Marcus Webb stared at his communication tablet in horror. The message had already been sent, delivered, and read. 3 small dots appeared on the screen, indicating that the recipient was typing a response. He had meant to message his roommate, asking him to bring food to their shared quarters. Instead, the autocomplete function had selected a different contact entirely. Commander Vela of the Andraxian delegation now believed that the human liaison officer had just invited her to his private chamber. The Andraxian diplomatic envoy had arrived on the joint species station 2 months prior, and Marcus had been assigned as their primary human contact. The arrangement had been professional, if occasionally awkward. The Andraxians were a warrior culture, standing nearly 7 feet tall with sleek silver skin that seemed to shimmer under the station lights. Their society valued directness and strength, and they found human social customs unnecessarily complicated. Commander Vela was their lead negotiator, a woman who carried herself with absolute confidence and had a reputation for decisive action. She wore the traditional Andraxian military attire, a form-fitting suit that regulated body temperature and provided light armor. Her eyes were a striking violet color, and her voice carried an accent that made every statement sound like a command. The dots stopped. A reply appeared on his screen. Acknowledged. Arriving shortly. Marcus felt his stomach drop. He needed to send a correction immediately to explain the misunderstanding before this situation spiraled completely out of control. His fingers flew across the tablet screen. Commander, there has been a mistake with my previous message. I did not intend to send that communication to you. Please disregard. He waited, watching the screen anxiously. The message showed as delivered and read, but no response came. Marcus paced his small quarters, running both hands through his hair. This was a diplomatic incident waiting to happen. The Andraxians took all communication seriously, especially those involving chambers and private spaces. In their culture, such an invitation carried significant weight. 4 minutes and 30 seconds after the initial message, his door chimed. She was already here. Marcus opened the door to find Commander Vela standing in the corridor, her posture rigid and formal. She was alone, which surprised him. Andraxian officers typically traveled with at least one escort. Commander Vela, Marcus began, his words tumbling out quickly. I apologize profusely for the confusion. The message was intended for my roommate, and the communication system made an error in recipient selection. I would never presume to summon you in such an informal manner. Vela tilted her head slightly, studying him with those intense violet eyes. Her expression was unreadable, which was typical for Andraxians. They did not display emotion in the same way humans did, instead communicating feeling through subtle shifts in posture and tone. You sent a summons, she said, her voice level and controlled. I responded to it. There is no error in my arrival. Yes, but I explained that the message was sent by mistake, Marcus replied, trying to keep his own tone respectful while firm. You did not need to come here. Vela stepped forward, and Marcus instinctively stepped back, allowing her into his quarters. She moved with the fluid grace of a predator, her eyes scanning the room with tactical precision. The door closed behind her with a soft hiss. In Andraxian custom, when one receives a direct communication requesting presence in private chambers, the message cannot be unsent, she explained. The invitation has been extended. The honor requires a response. I chose to respond by attending. Marcus felt heat rising to his face. Commander, I truly apologize for any cultural confusion this has caused. On Earth, we can simply acknowledge mistakes and move forward without obligation. I am aware of human customs, Vela said, turning to face him directly. However, I am not human. You sent the message to an Andraxian officer. Therefore, Andraxian protocols apply. The lieutenant felt trapped by logic he did not fully understand. The cultural training program had covered basic Andraxian customs, but nothing had prepared him for this specific scenario. He wished desperately that the station's cultural liaison was available, but it was late in the station cycle, and most administrative personnel were off duty. What happens now? Marcus asked, deciding that direct questions might be the best approach. Vela's posture shifted slightly, a movement so subtle that Marcus almost missed it. According to his training, this indicated a transition to a less formal mode of interaction. "Now we speak," she said simply. "You summoned me to your chamber. I am here. We may discuss whatever matter prompted the invitation, or we may simply acknowledge this situation and determine how to proceed." Marcus gestured to the small seating area in his quarters. A couch that had seen better days and a chair that was standard station issue. Vela moved to the chair and sat with perfect posture, her hands resting on her knees. "Commander, I genuinely meant to message my roommate about food," Marcus explained, sitting on the edge of the couch. There was no hidden meaning or intention behind the communication. "I understand," Vela replied. "However, you must understand that intentions matter less than actions in Andraxian culture. You performed an action. That action has consequences. We are now navigating those consequences together." The human officer leaned back, processing this information. The Andraxians had been difficult partners in the coalition negotiations, always insisting on rigid adherence to protocol and tradition. This was exactly the kind of inflexibility that had caused problems in previous joint operations. Is there a way to resolve this that honors your customs while acknowledging the accidental nature of the invitation? Marcus asked carefully. Vela was quiet for a moment, and Marcus got the impression she was considering multiple responses. When she spoke again, her tone had shifted to something less formal, almost conversational. "There is a concept in Andraxian culture called Teshvara," she explained. "It roughly translates to fortunate accident or unexpected opportunity, when circumstances create a situation that was not planned but may prove beneficial. We embrace it rather than resist it." Marcus raised his eyebrows. "Are you suggesting that this mistake might be beneficial?" "Perhaps," Vela said. "You and I have worked together for 2 months, always in formal settings with other personnel present. Our interactions have been professional but distant. This accidental summons has created an opportunity for informal dialogue, which may improve our working relationship." The lieutenant had to admit there was logic to that perspective. The formal nature of their previous meetings had made it difficult to establish any kind of rapport. Every conversation had been carefully structured, every word measured and diplomatic. "I suppose that makes sense," Marcus conceded. "Though I wish the opportunity had come about in a less mortifying way." For the first time since arriving, Vela made a sound that might have been Andraxian laughter, a soft exhalation that carried a hint of amusement. "Human embarrassment is a fascinating phenomenon," she observed. "Your species experiences distress over social mistakes in a way that Andraxians find puzzling. We acknowledge errors and adapt. You seem to internalize them as personal failures." Marcus smiled despite himself. "That's a fairly accurate assessment of human psychology. We tend to replay our mistakes in our minds repeatedly, imagining all the ways we could have avoided the situation." "Inefficient," Vela noted, but her tone was not unkind. They talked for nearly an hour after that, the conversation flowing more naturally than any of their previous exchanges. Marcus learned that Vela had been a combat pilot before transitioning to diplomatic service, and that she found station life confining after years of spaceflight. She learned that he had joined the Coalition Liaison Program to escape a desk job on Earth. Seeking adventure among the stars. The discussion ranged from military tactics to food preferences to the challenges of maintaining relationships across vast distances of space. Vela revealed that Andraxians considered emotional vulnerability to be a sign of strength rather than weakness. which explained much about their direct communication style. Marcus shared his observation that humans often said the opposite of what they meant, relying on context and tone to convey true feelings. When Vela finally stood to leave, the awkwardness of her arrival had completely dissipated. She moved to the door and paused, turning back to face Marcus. "Lieutenant Webb," she said formally, "I thank you for this conversation. It has been enlightening. Thank you for responding to my accidental summons with such grace." "Commander," Marcus replied, standing as well. Vela's posture shifted again. That subtle movement that indicated a change in social mode. "Perhaps we might arrange intentional meetings in the future," she suggested. "Informal discussions may prove valuable for both our cultural understanding and professional collaboration." Marcus nodded, genuinely pleased by the suggestion. "I would welcome that, Commander." "Vela," she corrected. "In informal settings, you may use my given name." "Then you should call me Marcus," he offered. She inclined her head in acknowledgement, a gesture of respect in Andraxian body language. The door opened, and she stepped into the corridor. Before it closed completely, she looked back one final time. "Marcus," she said, "next time you wish to summon me to your chamber, ensure the invitation is intentional." The door closed before he could formulate a response, leaving him standing in his quarters with a confused smile on his face. He was not entirely sure what had just happened, but somehow his massive communication error had resulted in an unexpected friendship with one of the station's most formidable officers. His tablet chimed with a new message. This one was from his roommate, finally responding to the message that had never been sent. "You good? You never asked for food." Marcus laughed and typed a response. "Long story. I will explain later." He set the tablet aside and sat back down on his couch, shaking his head at the absurdity of the situation. Humanity had reached the stars, formed alliances with dozens of alien species, and built massive stations that floated in the void between worlds. Yet somehow, the simple act of sending a text message to the wrong person remained just as catastrophic as it had been centuries ago on Earth. The difference was that now, such mistakes could lead to unexpected friendships across the cosmos. Marcus decided that maybe, just maybe, fortunate accidents were worth the initial embarrassment after all.